Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Bristol, Virginia City Council. Today is Tuesday, August 26, 2025. This time we'll have a moment of silent prayer. Please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening. It's nice to see a good crowd here tonight. Thank you all for coming out. We certainly appreciate you being here. If there is anyone that is planning to speak during public comment or to any of the items on the agenda, just a friendly reminder to please fill out a form in the back and hand it to Megan up here if you haven't done so already. If you have signed up, I will also remind you, you have 3 minutes once you come up to the podium. If you will please state your name and address for our record when you come up. So it's really great to see everybody here tonight. I just have a couple of announcements I'd like to share. First, it was really great this week to have Governor Youngkin here with us yesterday. He was here for a couple of different events, but one of them was the groundbreaking on the new 24/7 walk-in crisis center at the Ridgeview Pavilion right here in Bristol, Virginia. And we're really excited about this, as this helps with our behavioral health services here, not only in Bristol, but in Southwest Virginia. The center will be open 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, and will certainly fill a need that we have here in the city right now. Governor Youngkin was also here for an event that the Bristol Chamber of Commerce sponsored, the Hobnob on the state line, and with Governor Lee. And it was just really nice to hear from both governors and hear their excitement and their support of Bristol. And so we certainly appreciate them coming down and being here for those events. Next, I would just like to remind all my fellow Bearcats out there, we are having an all-class reunion at the ball game Friday night. So if you're a Bearcat alumni, any class is invited. And also, if you're not a Bearcat, it's okay if you want to come to the game. We'd love to have you there, or a Bearcat supporter. Or maybe you're married to a Bearcat. But I think it's going to be a great night. The Bristol, Virginia Public School Foundation has worked really hard to get the word out about this event and to bring all the Bearcats back together and just bring some excitement around our home team. And I'll tell you, there's so much school spirit right now, and that's really exciting to see. I've been to a couple of things at the high school. As you all know, we have a new principal, Mr. Price, who has certainly brought a ton of excitement with him. So I appreciate the work that he's doing at the high school. And then also, I hope that you've heard, but we announced that we are bringing the Stateliners back to Bristol, Virginia. And so we are so excited about this and to bring them back home for hopefully the season for 2027. And so I know I've got a huge response from everyone talking about it and just having that excitement. We've had baseball here as long as I can remember, and I grew up in the city, and to have them come back and to have that team here is just really awesome. So I want to thank our city manager, Randy Eads, for the work that he did on working to make that happen. And I know it's a lot of phone calls and work, and we appreciate the time and work that you put into that. So we're really excited. So I'll now open it up to any other council members with any comments.
I'll just add, thank you, Mr. Eads, for your work on the Bristol baseball, the Stateliners. That's a fantastic thing. I know you put a lot of time into that, as Mayor Nave said, a lot of phone calls, a lot of traveling you did, so thank you for your work.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Just to echo the mayor's comments about everything going on, it's always a very exciting time this time of year, especially with large events that bring in a lot of visitors to the city, such as the Bristol race coming up and Rhythm and Roots weekend, the next weekend after that. And also I'm always excited about the start of school and high school football. As the mayor mentioned, a big game, a home game this Friday night. And before the game, the team always gets together for a pregame meal, and we're going to be getting together to sponsor that meal and serve dinner to the football team this Friday evening before the game. So we're looking forward to that, and should be a fun time.
And I'll just add a note to, I know I mentioned Governor Youngkin being here, but in the past month, we have had, the whole administration has been here. We've had Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears was here during the State of the City's Bristol Chamber of Commerce event. She came in for that luncheon. We've also had Attorney General Jason Miyares here for several things, for several announcements. And I'd just like to say, it's just nice having that support and for them coming from Richmond and being here, because we always feel like at times that, we're forgotten here. So it's just nice, no matter which side you're on, that we get that attention from Richmond, and that's the important thing. I just wanted to make that note. So with no further comments, we'll move into the city manager's comments.
I don't have any comments tonight. You all covered everything.
All right, thank you. Moving into adoption of agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move for the adoption of the agenda with several changes.
Okay.
First change would be I would move that we postpone item D4 until a future meeting to be determined. I would also move that we add a discussion and motion item regarding funding for Believe in Bristol to immediately follow item D8 on the agenda. And I would move that we add a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1 for personnel, and that coincide with the other two closed sessions on the agenda.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with agenda changes. So postponing item D4, adding a discussion and motion regarding funding for Believe in Bristol, and then adding a closed session for personnel. We have a motion and second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnham.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. All right, moving into the regular agenda. Item number 1, resolution of Town Council of Richlands, Virginia, a resolution commending the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department for their heroic service during the February 15, 2025 flood event. So at this time, I will ask members of the Richlands Town Council to come forward.
I don't think we have anyone here tonight for some reason, so.
Okay.
We do have the resolution. I can read the resolution and move forward if y'all want to do that, or I can touch base with Richlands and see if we want to do it another night.
Okay. I know Chief Armstrong is here. Chief, do you know if they would like to be here to present that, or did they want us to recognize through council? Do you have any idea? Okay.
I know the next time we'd be available to do it would be the second meeting in September. That's why we had it tonight, because
Okay.
their meeting coincides with their first meeting in August.
Okay.
So
Well, if we want to move forward and talk about it, but if they are able to come another night, we'd love to have them recognize you as well
Okay.
during
Yeah, we
public
can move
comment.
forward.
Okay.
all right, so we have before us a resolution tonight from the town of Richlands regarding Bristol, Virginia's fire department help throughout the February 15th flood event that they had in Richlands. I do have a resolution. I can go ahead and read that resolution now, or you can read it, Mayor, your choice.
Okay. Either way.
Okay.
If you would like to read it, that will be fine.
Sure. Resolution of the Town Council of Richlands, Virginia, R 2025-05-01, a resolution commending the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department for their heroic service during the February 15, 2025 flood event. Whereas on February 15, 2025, the town of Richlands experienced a historic and devastating flood event resulting in widespread property damage and posing a significant threat to the lives of our residents. And whereas the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department, demonstrating extraordinary commitment and professionalism, promptly dispatched their swiftwater rescue team to assist in the emergency response. And whereas the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department swiftwater rescue team conducted over 80 evacuations, include 20 or more dangerous swiftwater rescue operations under extremely hazardous conditions. And whereas the heroic and selfless actions of the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department personnel undoubtedly saved lives and prevented further tragedy within our community. And whereas the town of Richlands recognizes and deeply appreciates the unwavering dedication and bravery displayed by the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department during this critical time. And whereas the town of Richlands wishes to express its profound gratitude for the invaluable assistance provided by the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department, which significantly contributed to the safety and well-being of our residents. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Council of Richlands, Virginia, that the Town Council of Richlands hereby extends its sincere and heartfelt appreciation to the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department for their exceptional bravery, professionalism, and unwavering dedication during the historic flood event of February 15, 2025. The Town Council of Richlands acknowledges the extraordinary efforts of the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department Swiftwater Rescue Team, whose swift and decisive actions saved lives and prevented further harm. The Town Council of Richlands expresses its deepest gratitude to the individual members of the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department who selflessly risk their own safety to protect and rescue the residents of our community. And this resolution shall be forwarded to the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department as a testament to the town of Richlands' profound gratitude and admiration. Be it further resolved that the Chief of Police is hereby directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the Bristol, Virginia Fire Department.
All right, thank you. And I'll just say, wow, when you listen to those numbers and the work that you all did during this, it's amazing. Over 80 evacuations, including 20 or more dangerous swiftwater rescue operations under extremely hazardous conditions. And I just have to commend you all and thank you. Thank you for being there for our city, but also being there for our neighbors. We greatly appreciate you, and we never underestimate the work that you do. And so at this time, I will ask you all to come forward, and we'll present you with what we have, and then we can we'll get the original to you, if that's okay. If you want to come up, Chief and the team. All right. You'll want to come. Thank you all again. I can't say enough how proud I am as the mayor to recognize you all, and we appreciate you all so very much. Okay, next item on the agenda, a resolution to designate the Department of Public Works employees as first responders as federally mandated by the President of the United States. Staff report, I'll turn it over to Mr. Jake Chandler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Council. The Department of Public Works is one of the first primary emergency responders on scene during incidents and plays a vital role in all phases of emergency management. Even during certain incidents, the police department, the fire department, and EMS need the Public Works Department to access the core of the incident. During response efforts, Public Works provides essential services such as, but not limited to, clearing ice, snow, and trees from roadways, facilitating access for other first responders, assessing damage, removing debris, restoring and repairing critical infrastructure such as the streets and the stormwater system, providing traffic control, maintaining buildings and facilities for continued use, maintaining and repairing fleet vehicles and equipment, and providing fuel for the city's fleet and equipment. Public Works provides design, construction, long-term operation and maintenance of infrastructure, maintenance of buildings and facilities, and management of the city's fleet and equipment. Public Works is extensively involved in prevention, mitigation, response, and most importantly, recovery during incidents. The President of the United States and the Department of Homeland Security consider Public Works as part of the emergency services sector. The National Incident Management System lists Public Works alongside police, fire, and EMS. FEMA indicates the Public Works Department is responsible for addressing infrastructure challenges, which includes the streets and the stormwater system, and encourages disaster planning with Public Works. The Virginia Department of Emergency Management identifies Public Works as one of the emergency support functions during incident management. All incidents are local in nature, and the vast majority are caused by natural disasters. Many incidents do not reach the threshold to qualify for federal or state assistance, and even if the incidents do qualify for federal or state assistance, local agencies are expected to handle the incident for the first 72 hours. Public Works is often considered the silent arm of public safety and is often the first on scene and the last to leave the scene of incidents.
All right, thank you. We now have, looking for a council and motion to pass this resolution.
I move for approval of the resolution.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any council discussion?
I just want to say thank you to our Public Works employees for the fantastic job they do, especially in these events. Unfortunately, it seems like we're getting more and more weather events and things like this, so y'all do a fantastic job, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep, and I'll just add to that, thank you for the work that you do. It doesn't go unnoticed, and we certainly appreciate you all and all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, with no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Nate,
Yes. And reading of the resolution?
A resolution to designate the Department of Public Works employees as first responders is federally mandated by the President of the United States. Whereas the American Public Works Association is a not-for-profit international organization of more than 30,000 members involved in the field of public works, APWA serves its members by promoting professional excellence and public awareness through education, advocacy, and the exchange of knowledge. And whereas on May 7, 2018, APWA announced the association's adoption of a National Public Works First Responder symbol. The symbol is to be used throughout North America to recognize public works professionals' federally mandated role as first responders. And whereas President George W. Bush issued Homeland Security Presidential Directive 5, Management of Domestic Incidences in 2003, in which a public works response to emergencies and disasters is recognized as an absolute necessity, and the federal government is directed to include public works in all planning and response effort. And whereas President George W. Bush issued Homeland Security Presidential Directive 8, Management of Domestic Incidences in 2003, in which a public works professional is recognized as a first responder who in the early stages of an incident are responsible for the protection and preservation of life, property, evidence, and the environment that provide immediate support services during prevention, response, and recovery operations. And whereas the Public Works First Responder symbol uses familiar colors, orange, black, and white, and a design reminiscent of road construction signs, safety cones, and orange construction barrels, the Public Works First Responder symbol is expected to increase recognition of public works as first responders throughout North America. And whereas by displaying the Public Works First Responder symbol wherever appropriate, the public works agencies can raise awareness among all citizens, government officials, and other first responders about the critical role public works plays in emergency management efforts. The Department of Public Works will ensure the symbol has maximum exposure in as many settings as possible, such as on fleet vehicles, license plates, letterhead, hard hats, uniforms, identification badges, public buildings, and offices. And whereas the City Council of Bristol, Virginia believes to best provide for the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, it is appropriate to recognize our employees that put the citizens of Bristol, Virginia before themselves in time of emergency. And whereas the employees in the Department of Public Works involved in disaster response and recovery have demonstrated their skills and commitment multiple times throughout the years, and most recently during Hurricane Helene in 2024 and the BI College fire in 2024. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Bristol, Virginia, that the above recitals are confirmed and adopted herein, that employees of the Department of Public Works are recognized as first responders as federally mandated, and that the Public Works responder symbol as adopted by the American Public Works Association is hereby authorized for use by the Department of Public Works. Adopted this the 26th day of August, 2025 by the City Council.
All right, thank you. All right, item number 3 on the agenda, Highlands Community Service Performance Contract from the Department of Behavioral Health for year 26 and for year 27. I'd like to welcome Highlands Community Service to come forward now.
They've gotten a little squirrely with it again. Rather than doing a new contract, they've instead named this one as an Amendment 3 to the FY 24-25 contract. So that's a little bit out of the norm for what they typically do. Primary changes this year include just some basic structure and organization of the document itself. They have made some changes and added some developments of some outcome measures for many of the mandated services that we are required to provide. And the largest new shift that has been effective since about mid-June that's covered under this contract is we have a new data software system across the state. So it has made changes to how we report our services and capture some of those outcome pieces that they are measuring us on. It also changes our financial reports that we do beginning, mid, and end year for our services. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about any of those modifications.
Thank you for that. And I'll just, this is like so much information on this, so it's like impossible to read every bit of this. So yeah, so thank you for being here and for making us aware of the changes that were made and updates here. I will open it up. Are there any comments or questions from the council?
This is largely just to comply with updates to state code, correct?
No, this is the annual contract that all 40 CSBs across the state execute with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services for us to execute our duties as the public portal of entry to the public behavioral health system.
But the changes from the previous renewal is largely changes to comply with code, correct?
No, it's just changes to update what requirements the department wants to place upon us. As I mentioned, outcome measures. If there are code changes, then they certainly are addressed in this, but the code changes are not the only thing that are addressed annually.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just take a second. I know we had our board meeting. I serve on your board. We had our board meeting last week. I just wanted to thank you again for your team's work. Our swiftwater rescue team went to Texas, deployed, dealt with a lot, and your folks were here ready to provide some services for them when they got back. So just thank you for that.
I was going to thank them, but I think they all left. So,
Yes.
The chief is still here. He can share that.
yes, I'll speak to him about that.
Yeah. Yes, I'll just echo that. Thank you very much for all the work that you do for our community. I know that you all run a large operation, and we certainly appreciate all that you do for the city.
It's our pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is presentation of June 30th, 2025 financial information. Staff report from Ms. Tamara Spradlin.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Nave and members of council, this is the financial information for the year ended June 30th, 2025. This information is prepared on the cash basis and is unaudited. Our general fund summary with a budget of $93.6 million, revenues of $102.9 million, 110% of budget, expenditures of $78.3 million, 84% of budget, for a large fund surplus of $24.6 million. If we back out the DEQ landfill funding of $16.2 million from that surplus, that reduces to $8.38 million. And then if we further reduce the beginning balance fund used, if we back those out of $7 million, the adjusted surplus for the fiscal year on the cash basis becomes $1.375 million. This is what our general fund revenue looks like. Local revenue, shown in blue, makes up 64% of general fund receipts. It is 76% of the general fund budget. State revenue, shown in red, makes up 32% of general fund receipts. It is 20% of the budget. That budget variance is related to the DEQ funding that came in. And then the federal revenue is shown in green, and it makes up 4% of the general fund budget, of general fund collections, and it is 4% of the general fund budget. So our financial data graphs, fiscal year 21 is shown in gray, 22 is shown in yellow, 23 in red, 24 in green, and 25 in blue. Local sales and use tax are up across all periods presented. This is good news for the city. Cigarette taxes are down from all years except 2023, and that's a trend that has been continuing. Our lodging taxes are up from all years presented, even backing out the rate increase. Meals taxes are also up from all years presented, once again, as even backing out the rate increase. So our general fund expenditure update, and for the year ended, the benchmark would be 100%. Government administration is at 91%. Judicial administration ended the year at 94% of budget expended. Public safety, 93%. Public works, 58%, and that's just based on the timing of the landfill projects. That's responsible for that budget variance there. Health, welfare, and social services is at 90%. Education, 100%. Parks, recreation, and cultural, 90%. Community development at 86% of budgeted funds expended. That's down somewhat just because of the timing of a grant that flows through community development that was rebudgeted in the current fiscal year. Non-departmental is at 86% as well. That's down somewhat just due to the timing of a revenue sharing payment. Debt is at 100% and transfers at 92%. So overall, total expenditures are at 84% of the general fund budget for the year. So this is what our general fund expenditures look like. This is how the city's money is spent. 24% went to public safety, 19% went to public works, and keep in mind that the landfill disposal and collection now reside in public works in our general fund. Debt is at 13%. Health, welfare, and social services, 12%. Education, 11%. Government administration comprised 6% of expenditures. Transfers, 5%. Parks, recreation, and cultural, 4%. Judicial administration, 3%. Community development, 2%. And non-departmental, 1%. So that's what the city's, how the city spends its money. That's what that looks like on a graph. Falls Phases 2 and 3 update. Budgeted revenues for the fiscal year totaled $1.18 million. The year-to-date revenues at June 30th totaled $1.6 million, 136% of budget. The debt allocated to the Falls in the general fund is $2.16 million. So the budgeted deficit for the year was $983,000. And the actual result for the year is a deficit of $561,000, just over $500,000. There were no principal amounts due on the debt this year, so that's why that deficit was down from what we've seen historically. And Council, are there any questions? That concludes the presentation of the financial information.
Thank you very much, and I just want to say thank you to you and your team for the work that you put into this. I say every time I see it, I feel like it's looking better and better for the city, considering the places we have been in the past. So thank you for, and really to all of our departments for being careful on the spending, and we've really been watching that. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'll just say very briefly, obviously, thank you to Ms. Spradlin and her folks for putting this together as they always do. You know, I think two of the big things that we need to acknowledge, obviously, is we have, even after backing out our landfill expenses and other transfer expenses, we still have a little bit of a surplus left over June 30th, which is a big deal for us. And I just want to say thank you to the people who've been supporting the businesses at the Falls, which has made the deficit smaller, our debt deficit at the Falls smaller. So, and you can kind of see it in all those bar graphs. You know, the people of the city they're going out to eat. You know, people are coming in for the casino. They're spending some money. We're able to keep our revenues up, and we deeply appreciate that.
Would we be able to get a copy of that? I like seeing those revenue numbers. Thank you. And just to be clear, the revenues from the baseball game are not yet reflected in these numbers, correct?
Correct. Correct.
That'll be nice to see next quarter.
All right, thank you. So moving into the next item, item number 6, public hearing for a budget amendment. And I will now open the public hearing, and no one has signed up for public comment, and so I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Tamara Spradlin.
Thank you, Mayor Nave, members of council. This is a public hearing for a budget amendment. Section 15.2-2507 of the Code of Virginia allows that a locality may amend its budget. However, any amendment which exceeds 1% of the total expenditures shown in the currently adopted budget must be accomplished by publishing notice of a meeting and a public hearing. The notice of the public hearing was advertised in the August 9th, 2025 and the August 12th, 2025 editions of the Bristol Herald-Courier. The proposed budget amendment appropriates beginning balance funds to pay off the principal amount of the 2023 bond anticipation notes in the amount of $30,710,000. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I will now close the public hearing, and we will move into item number 7, 2023 landfill note presentation. Back to you, Ms. Spradlin.
Thank you. Mayor Nave, members of council, Mr. Roland Cooch with Davenport & Company, LLC, the city's financial advisors, will present a city council briefing regarding the impact of the payoff of the 2023 landfill note.
Hello, my name is Roland Cooch with Davenport & Company, and along with my colleague David Rose, who you've seen on many occasions, we are a financial advisor to the city of Bristol. We've been a financial advisor for well over 2 decades and have worked with the city of Bristol since that time. It's a pleasure for me to be here tonight to go through this briefing with respect to this public hearing and the note resolution, or the appropriation for the budget. I think you've got good news here. It's a good story, Mayor Nave, as you've said. The city's come a long way, and it's really a testament to Mr. Eads and Ms. Spradlin, as well as City Council, staying on task, staying on target, and really doing the right things to really put the city and push the city back to, bring it back to a good fiscal standing and fiscal health. So with my presentation tonight, it's a pleasure to be talking about this approach as the impact on the city's fund balance and the debt profile observations, really with respect to the payoff of this note. So I'm going to go through this presentation and give you kind of a brief contents and agenda. First, we'll talk a little bit about the background, goals and objectives, and summary executive summary of our analysis and what we've looked at here with respect to these key aspects of the city's credit health and fiscal health. Then we're going to also touch on historical and projected fund balances before the payoff of the note as well as after the payoff of the 23 note, and then touch on the existing tax-supported debt profile and how that will change. And then lastly, mention a little bit and touch on the debt affordability as the city looks forward to future fiscal years after the note has been paid off. So the first section I'd like to walk through, again, just a brief background here. As I've mentioned, we've been working with the city well over 2 decades, and since that time, we've assisted the city with really a lot of multi-year strategic financial planning. Part of what you see here is an outcome of that as well. Assistance with the development of financial policy guidelines that we'll also talk about, and you'll see some of those impacts in this analysis as well. Looking at financing for projects, we've done that, helped the city through direct bank loans as well as the public markets. The 2023 note that you'll be paying off and we'll be talking about tonight was in fact issued through the public markets, and I'll go through a little bit of background behind that and the origination of that. And last, the credit rating strategies that we really helped position the city, and the city has helped looking at those aspects and those metrics, and really has improved over the past 5 to 7 to 8 years in terms of improvement. And the city's credit ratings now stand at the highest credit ratings they have been in well over a decade, if not 2 decades.
Woohoo! That's exciting.
So, again, good news here. Glad to be talking tonight about all this. Goals and objectives are a presentation. Really, I've kind of summarized that, but we're going to talk a little bit about, in this order, perspective on the city's credit ratings. You'll see some comments there in the next several pages. Again, talking about the fund balances, both before and after the impact of the payoff of the note. And we're going to show a little bit of how FY26 estimated year-end results, which you've just seen, and FY26 budget then is anticipated to affect those going forward, and then really present the plan for the payoff of the 2023 general obligation notes, and again, how that changes the city's finances, both on a fund balance as well as a debt position going forward. And lastly, I'll provide a little bit of insight and update on the legal debt margin, as well as key debt ratios and estimated budgetary impact of debt service. So with that, turning to section 1, this is a background of Bristol's credit rating trends. And if we were to look at this section here in section 1, you can see that we are now from Moody's, that green box is highlighted A2. And if you look at the S&P rating, that's A+. And if you look at that, that is the 3rd tier. If we're to look at the highest possible tier of AAA, we get into the AA, which is the next highest tier. The city is right in the 3rd tier, which is strong, considered strong, and those are the rating agency terms. And if you look at that, the S&P rating is literally 1 notch below, moving into that very strong tier. You're going to see the commentary from both rating agencies that would lead to potential movement up. And again, what the city has been doing, and you can see the progression on the right-hand side, is that moving on from essentially the 2014-2015 timeframe, the city, coming into 2016-17, really started the upward trajectory with respect to Moody's, and you can see how that changed over the course of the time since 2017. The most recent upgrade was in 2022, and that was from an A3 to an A2 on Moody's. And you can see in S&P right below that, the most recent upgrade was in 2020, and that was from an A to an A+. And the city now stands at those 2 credit ratings at the present time. You can see the lowest point that the city has been in the, we'll call the 4th tier, which is BAA, or otherwise known as BBB. But that was almost nearly a decade ago in that time frame. So a little bit of perspective with respect to Moody's. Some of the text that's been highlighted here are really kind of key words. Moody thinks that and believes that the credit strengths here is a strong and improving financial position. It's a testament to what you just seen in 2025 year-end results. Stable local economy that's also benefiting from ongoing development. We see that with the casino, the other economic development that's also coming out of the ground as well. And then also, although the debt burden is on the higher side, it's a manageable, what they perceive as a manageable fixed cost burden. That's both debt and pensions as well. Challenges, below average resident income and wealth. They do reference the elevated debt burden we're talking about, although manageable, it is somewhat elevated. And then also as well, the contingent risk associated with continual landfill remediation. While the 2023 notes and the state grants that you're going to see in here have really helped to mitigate that, it's still a little bit of uncertainty out there that from Moody's perspective is sort of keeping you in that A2 range and from that mindset. Factors that can lead to an upgrade, continued trend of increased economic growth, strengthening of resident incomes, material reduction of long-term liabilities. I think that's what we're doing tonight, paying off some of those potential what could have been long-term liabilities. Successful remediation of landfill issues, reducing the associated risks. That's to come, that's still in progress, as we all know. Factors that can lead to a downgrade, those are material declines in the city's reserves and liquidity, and also contraction of local economy, as well as weakened income and wealth. Sort of an opposite, we'll call recessionary impacts that could lead to that as well. On the next page, Standard & Poor's, really they kind of mirror the same sort of concept in terms of thoughts and evaluation. Overall, Bristol's budgetary performance has remained balanced, supported by good financial management policies and practices. We see that, and we see the results of that over the past several years in terms of trends. S&P's rating assessment reflects their perspective of a growing economy with a large-scale casino project, strong management with strong financial management policies, strong historical performance, as well as incorporating, though, the offsets a higher overall net debt liability profile. And that's one of the things that the city is continuing to work on and kind of mitigate, especially by paying down these notes. Downside scenario, again, looking at potentially what could result in a reduction in the credit rating. That is the opposite of what we've been seeing. That is weaker financial results, resulting in material drawdowns on available fund balance and reserves. So that's generally, I think, from our perspective at Davenport, in the years we've been working with the city, really a good, positive affirmation that the city is doing the right things and moving along the right track. So continuing on with the background, just a little bit of a background, I think, for the people in the audience that didn't realize or have not really kept track with all of the events that led to where we are today. Really, it started in 2023 with the federal court order and consent decree that really required the city to effectively shut down its quarry landfill and prepare it for closure. That was really about nearly a $50 million mandated sort of expenditure that was required to be put into place by a result of lawsuits and settlements there. When we look at this, we developed, as a result of that, we worked with the city to really develop a strategic plan of finance that, fortunately at the time, took advantage of ARPA funds, as well as city and state grant funds and fund balance to fund the project. That is that $49 million. These 2023 notes were part of that strategic plan of finance. Really, in working with partners at the state, we developed a plan of finance to really put some funding in place because the project needed to continue, but we did this in anticipation of receiving grant funds. So we didn't have any, we didn't have an assurance at the time, but we were hoping that we were going to get those grant funds. In fact, those grant funds did come through from the state side, and the state did come through with respect, and it really helped the city of Bristol kind of get to the point where it is today. The 2023 notes effectively funded some of the project and continued it to allow to keep going, to remediate those odor issues and prepare the landfill for closure. And the state grant funds were intended to be the primary source of repayment for these 23 notes. So that's kind of the concept of what we're trying to do. That was an interim financing to kind of bridge us to the 23 notes and get them repaid from the state grant funds. Fast forward to today, 2025, we were engaged to provide this overview tonight that you're going to see, which we think is really a strong affirmation of where the city's come, including but not limited to the fund balance and debt levels, but also evaluate the impact as we go forward on the FY 2025 in terms of estimated financial position and results, and how the FY 26 budget is anticipated to impact on what you see here going forward. Ultimately, all that plays into the assessment of the outcome of the payoff of the notes that we anticipate that you're going to take action on as a result of the public hearing. So on the next page, again, key observations. The state grant funds allocated to the city for the project are really a key aspect that has allowed the city to effectively mitigate or not need to finance this $30 million on a long-term basis. That would be, if we didn't have that ability, we would be looking at additional $30 million of long-term debt to just get the landfill ready to closure, and that's something that would just be additive to the city's debt burden. We don't have to do that now because we've really had the help from the Commonwealth. We believe in looking at all these funding sources, the city does have the wherewithal to pay down these notes through these grant funds, but also some remaining unspent 2023 note proceeds, as well as a little bit of unassigned fund balance. So there's a little bit, we're going to see how much of that is going to go into this. As a result of that, we think the city will still be in an excellent position in terms of where at the end of FY 26 the fund balance level will be, essentially in that $25 to $26 million range based on the budget of 26. And that's still about 31 to 32% of revenues. In relationship, your policy is 18% in terms of that target. Now, what we want to also point out is that we're not saying that you should spend the fund balance to the 18% target. By no means, the 31% really is positioning the city to maintain that strong flexibility and the budget aspects and the credit ratings going forward as well. It's a very good position to be in, and it's very comparable with those other credit rated local governments in the city's credit range, if not higher in that respect. The increase in the city's taxable assessed values, that's as we've seen recently, combined with the payoff of the notes, has resulted in significant flexibility in the city's legal debt margin. By the end of FY 26, once we get through the payoffs of the notes, that legal debt margin or that capacity to issue general obligation bonds is going to be upwards of about $118 million. That's an increase from roughly $8 million at the end of FY04. This provides significant breathing room. We want to point out that doesn't mean we say go ahead and issue that. That's just your legal debt ability to do that. This is generally a standard position for other local governments to be in, is to have that kind of legal debt margin and flexibility. So the city of Bristol really has worked hard to get back to this position as well. The payoff of the 23 note and the increases in the city's tax base are also estimated or projected to result in the following improvements to the city's debt position. That is, we're going to say reducing pressure on the city's credit ratings, increased, again, legal debt margin, legal debt capacity, reduced key debt metrics as well. You've got policies that we'll talk about here, and we're talking about debt to assessed valuation. It's going to be in the 5.8% going down to estimated at 4.3%. Very nice position to be in. And a decrease in the city's tax-supported debt service to budgeted expenditures from about 10.7 to roughly just under 10%. That is generally what we think is in the industry standard benchmark range. So you're moving back to what we see as normal ranges for debt service and normal ranges for well-managed local governments. So moving on to the next page, what we wanted to also point out, and we kind of alluded to it as well, the legal debt margin going up to about 118 million. While that's improving significantly, doesn't mean we say you should borrow 118 million. There are ways to borrow and things you should be looking at to borrow, and there are prudent things you need to borrow for. So that allows you the flexibility to do it. We think having that flexibility really provides the ability to invest in the city at the right time and use debt judiciously and appropriately as well. The city's general fund debt service, excluding schools, will increase. It's still on a slightly increasing trajectory and will eventually require additional annual recurring revenues. We've estimated those to be about 730,000 in 2029 and really about 1.1 million by the time we get to FY30. By the time you get through 42, you're going to start to see a decline back down in your debt service. But really what we think here with all the economic development growth, talking with city administration, that you're going to be able to grow into these payments by the time we get there. Your debt service reserve balance that you're using, little by little to get to that point is really helping you grow into that funding mechanism. In addition, there's also another obligation out there with respect to the city schools. And that's going to require additional recurring revenue sources beginning on or about FY27 and then peaking ultimately to FY30. That's the leased revenue bonds that were issued through the IDA to fund the major school improvement that was done a few years ago. But that's another thing to keep on the horizon and kind of keep in the mindset as budgets are developed going forward. So section 2, looking at historical and projected fund balances. Since FY 2020, making a few key points here, the city really has been able to increase its unassigned and committed fund balances. In most recent audit, FY 2024, those two figures, those two pots of money, totaled about 37.9 million. The city's fund balances, and those figures do not include, again, any ARPA, nor reimbursed state grant funds. So those are really the city that's really been building that back up. Without the receipt of the $26.5 million state grant funds for the landfill projects, we believe those fund balances would have really taken a bigger hit, as well as would have had the need to permanently finance. That last bullet point would have had the need to help to permanently finance these notes that we're talking about today. That's $30 million really of avoided debt, long-term debt on the landfill project itself. On the next page, on page 14, this is a graphical representation really in looking at, on the left-hand side, how those fund balances have grown to the point they are today. 2024, they're at the highest levels they have been. That dark green bar is the 32.9 million. The 5 million of committed fund balances, little green bar on top. And you can see if we look at the unassigned fund balance on the right-hand side versus the revenues, you're standing roughly at about 46.7% in 2024. And again, this is before the payoff before 2025 and before the payoff of the 30.7 million in nets. So some key observations in 26 that are going to affect those fund balance numbers. And again, these are planned uses of fund balance. The 26 budget incorporates about 2.9 million of unassigned fund balance, again, primarily for one-time locally funded capital projects. So you're using that planned use of fund balance, and that's going for planned one-time needs. That is what we call structural balance. In addition, the FY26 budget incorporates about $8 million of landfill expenditures, but those are going to be funded from state grant funds that haven't been used to date. So that's essentially a non-impact on your unassigned fund balance there. And then lastly, in 2026, there's an approximate budgeted use of about $1.9 million of that committed dollar amount, that light green bar that we just saw, of the committed debt service reserve fund balance. And this is used in part to help grow into the city's debt service. We'd like to note that that $1.9 million assumes that this note would have been outstanding for the full year. So we think with the payoff of this, that 1.9 is going to save the city about $600,000 to $700,000 of that use. So you're really going to use about a positive variance. You're going to have used only about 1.2 million of that. So you're going to have more of that committed fund balance left over to help and offset future years. On the next page, again, projected financial results before the payoff of the 23 note. We just heard a little bit of the estimated 2025 year-end results, estimating about a $1 million addition, but we've not factored any of that into our analysis here, just to be on a conservative side, because that is an unaudited cash basis. We want to make sure after the dust settles that those fund balances really fall through, and we'll incorporate those, as the audit is completed. In addition, part of that variance is the city budgeted the use of about $1.4 million of its committed debt service reserve fund in 2025. However, due to positive results, the city did not end up using that. That's what's helping allow that committed fund balance to go forward in future years in 26 and beyond. And again, looking at 2026, we talked about that planned use of the $2.9 million for one-time projects, as well as that $1.9 million of committed fund balance. But again, we think there's going to be a positive variance there, as we just talked about. So where does this lead us in terms of looking at the projections? Again, before the payoff of the note, we wanted to highlight, again, mostly what you see here, the last two columns, the 2025 estimated results, 2026 budget. And you can see that if we look at the estimated 2025, they're the exact same unassigned fund balance and the exact same committed fund balance. But we also have $16 million there of state grant funds that are really designed to be used to pay off the note. We wanted to show you the context of the unassigned fund balance and committed fund balance going into 2026. If, as we look at the impacts in 2026 budget that we just talked about, you would see that change from 25 to 26, slight change in the 32 million down to 30 million. You'd also see a slight change in the committed fund balance as well. You'd still be in the 36 to 37% range relative to your 18% policy on the right-hand side. So still in very strong financial position. So that's before. Now, the next section, we're going to talk about the projected fund balances after the payoff of the notes. And again, that section really is going to look at what those 25 and 26 numbers will look like. And then again, from a fund balance standpoint, and then later on we'll get into the debt position standpoint in a little bit more details. So on page 19, this is a high-level overview, and again, this is a snapshot point in time. Just want to note that these numbers are continuing to evolve as the city continues to move down spending on the landfill project. But as of this point in time, and estimated as of FY 2024 year end, and the numbers that we have today based on the remaining bond proceeds from the note, as well as the grant funds that have been received and drawn down, we anticipate that $30.7 million is going to take and going to use the remaining unspent bond proceeds. It's about $10.5 million. Also, about $16 million of state grant funds are going to be used and applied towards the repayment of that note. That leaves us about $4.3 million that we need to use and tap into from the unassigned fund balance. Earlier on, we went through kind of this unassigned fund balance discussion at your fund balance levels. We think that additional use is not going to have a material impact on your levels. In fact, you'll still be in a very strong position, and the city does have the wherewithal to do this. Extinguishing this $30.7 million of debt really adds to the flexibility going forward for the city. So looking at the payoff of this note, what has the following effects on the 26 budget? Again, this reduces the amount of that committed debt service funds budget. That $1.9 million we talked about to help you grow into the debt service, really going to save about $600,000 of that. So that's going to be $600,000 to $700,000 more in the bank. Again, this is due to paying off the note early. This increases the use of the unassigned fund balance by about $4.3 million. Again, you're going to see the impact on the bar charts in the next page or two. Instead of that 2.9, it's going to go up to about 7.2 million use of unassigned fund balance. We are using the 16 million of grant funds received, and we are using the 10.5 million of unspent bond proceeds, roughly thereabouts, to extinguish this note that's currently outstanding. So all good things here, leading to this look at the projection of the fund balances after the payoff of the 23 note. So the key things I like to point to here effectively visually can be shown in the two graphs. If you look at 2025, that estimated blue and that green, again, you can see they're mirroring 2024 because we're not assuming any increases in fund balance. But as we go to 2025 to 2026, based on the adjustments we talked about in use of fund balance, the unassigned fund balance is anticipated to go be reduced from 32.9 million down to about 25.7. That assumes the budget holds true and there's no positive variances in revenues nor expenditure savings. Now, to the extent you have that, these numbers are going to get better. Now, your committed fund balance reduced by about that 1.2 million. And when we look at the right-hand side of the page, that 25.7 million still leaves you in a very solid position, as I said earlier in the presentation, around 31.5% to almost 32% relative to your 18% policy. So you're still in a very strong financial position from that perspective. This page won't go into any details, but these are the numbers behind those charts that if you wanted to look at in detail how we calculated them, you can see how we did that leading into that graph on the previous page. So last couple of sections talking about the tax-supported debt profile, and this is a before snapshot. This is the existing profile, and you can see right there the bar chart on the left-hand side as well as the principal and interest schedules going forward, and down at the bottom on the bottom left-hand side, when you add in all of the GO debt as well as the lease revenue, the school debt, and some miscellaneous leases and loans payable, the city's overall debt position before the payoff of the notes, this is projected or estimated as of June 30th, 2025, is roughly $156.5 million. And you'll see that bar, that blue bar represents that note coming due in fiscal year 2028. So moving to the next page, you can see the dramatic difference here. That blue bar essentially goes away. Your debt service payments, really in 2026, that number was 1.5 million on that note. And you can see that little highlighted yellow box. That note's roughly about $767,000 there. There's going to be a little bit of accrued interest on top of that to pay off the note. But effectively, that's your cash flow savings from the payoff of this note from these one-time funds. Your debt burden effectively goes down to about $120.9 million. That is to say your GO bonds go down to about 94.5, and your lease revenue bonds still stay roughly the same, and your leases still stay the same. That GEO bond is what we're measuring against your legal debt margin. And as I talked about earlier, you've got a legal debt margin now with the result of this payoff, an increase in assessed values recently of about $118 million over and above that. This gives you a snapshot of the legal debt margin, legal debt capacity. Looking at FY24, we were really in a very tight position in terms of the ability to legally issue any more debt. Virtually no flexibility. By the time we get to FY25, you're essentially increased there as a combination of assessed values. But when we look at FY26, assessed value increase before the payoff and then after the payoff, we see that jump up to the estimated level of about $118 million. Key debt ratios, again, this is the industry standard benchmarks as well as city policies that we're looking at here. Looking at the GEO debt to assessed value, you can see back in 2024, that was about 9.4%. And we're looking at that, and the legal debt limit is that red line at the top. As we move through time, 2025, 2026, and again, that gray bar shows you before the payoff, you're roughly about 5.8%. After the payoff in 2026, you're going to be in the 4.3% range. So really moving below your policy range, moving you in very good, what we'll call normal benchmarks for A-rated credits throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Same story here for debt service versus expenditures. Again, in the 11 to 12% range in 2024, 2025. And again, this includes our look at it from a credit perspective, which includes the lease revenue bonds. So we want to make that note. But as we look at the debt service versus expenditures after the payoff, you can see that gray bar is shaved off of the debt service, and you're really in just under the 10% range for the next couple of years, kind of peaking as the debt service reaches its peak, just a hair over 10%. That again is normal industry standard benchmarks for the Commonwealth of Virginia. We do see a lot of local governments in that 10% range. From a policy standpoint, your policy is the 8% range. You've got that more aspirational policy to be in that range. But want to say that 10% range is not out of the norms. Last couple of slides, and then I'd be open for any questions. Just a mention on debt affordability. This is the budgetary impact. And again, this is the general fund excluding the schools. And again, this is after the payoff of the 23 note. You note that there's a green line here that's a light green that kind of stays with your debt service until we get to about 2028, 2029. But then you'll start to see that debt service bar eclipse that green line. This is the revenue variance that we were talked about or alluded to earlier, that we think that you've got your committed debt service funds, reserve funds, to help you work into that debt service. And we think with economic growth, you're going to eventually get there, and that's going to be built into and allow you to grow into this debt service. And that is, again, a plan that was put into place several years ago, and it's been working for the city going forward here. The next slide, again, this is the debt affordability on the schools. We wanted to highlight this to keep it in, from a perspective of what needs to be thought through in the next, we'll call 5-year range, is that there's going to be a school debt service number that as the school funds wind down, there's going to have to be an offsetting revenue source to really pay for the schools going forward as well. We wanted to kind of mention that, as we would be remiss if we did not bring it to your attention, as it's part of your overall portfolio. But we think ultimately, at the end of the day, in conclusion, the city really has done a very good job, excellent job, I might say, in terms of getting to this point, getting to strong structural balance, having a defined plan to work into its debt service, really grow into it, and really mitigate debt when it can through the help of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the grant programs for the mandated landfill project that was put into place there in the 2023 timeframe. So that's my presentation. I'd like to conclude with those thoughts, and if there are any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
All right, thank you very much. I will just have to say, your all's presentations aren't always exciting and something we look forward to hearing, but hearing everything you said today is very promising. I know we still have a lot of debt, but to hear that the plan that our city leaders have put in place with Mr. Eads and Ms. Spradlin, and to hear that we're improving our financial position is huge for our city. And I just have to say to you all, thank you. I know this council has also been very conscious about the budget and what we have made in purchases. And I also have to say thank you to you all, because I know we have long, hard discussions before we make any of those decisions, so thank you. I know that, again, the landfill debt is there and going to continue to be there. We know that there's still a lot of things out there we're not aware of, and that's going to continue to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on, and will continue. I wish that we could pay it off and then it's done. So knowing that we still have that, but by hearing we can pay this off early and have a $600,000 plus in savings is amazing. And I think that the city has been working really hard on the debt, and I just want to say thank you for that. So I'll open it up for any comments or questions from the council. All right. All right.
Back when we got into thank you. Back when we got into the bond anticipation notes, it was one of those things that I didn't like getting into because I don't like debt. Personally, I do not like debt. But it was necessary to cover a whole lot of expenses that were about to come on us very quickly. Now that we are able to resolve that debt and get out from under not only the debt service payments for the principal, but for the interest on it, I am very glad to see that that's a possibility. Interest is an expense that gives you absolutely no benefit at all, and I'm glad to be able to get out from under that.
All right. All right. Well, thank you very much for the
you.
presentation. We appreciate you being here and presenting this to us in person tonight and delivering some great news. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'd just like to add, thank you very much for your work with us as we've been through this journey the last couple of years. There is never a question, and I know Mr. Eads would agree, there's never a question too big or too small for you to help us work through. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure, and we enjoy working with the city.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Quite very close to her. And you're good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Moving into item number 8, a supplemental appropriation for $30,710,000. And I'll turn it over again to Tamara Spradlin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This item is a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $30,710,000 to appropriate the carryover of unexpended funds to pay the principal amount of the 2023 bond anticipation notes issued for landfill project expenditures. We do need to make sure in the motion that we include verbiage that authorizes the city manager to prepay or redeem the bond anticipation notes. We just want to make sure we get that in the record. And it is my pleasure to recommend that council approve the supplemental appropriation of this debt as listed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Looking for council motion and second.
I move for approval of the supplemental appropriation in the amount of $30,710,000 with the understanding that the city manager is able to redeem to make these payments.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Before we call the roll, I'll just say again, this is a really good feeling that we're going to be able to pay this off early and to get it out of the way. And I know there's more and plenty more out there, but this says a lot for the work that you're doing. And by putting a plan in place when you all started, and you can look back on the history of the year from the time that Mr. Reed started with us and you did, Ms. Spradlin, and to see that plan and to see how you have gotten us back in better financial shape. You've worked hard on getting our credit rating up, and that is huge. And so I just want to say thank you again.
And I would just like to add to that as well. Thank you both for what you've done. I know when you first came on, there was a lot of financial issues, there's still financial issues, but you all have worked so tirelessly to fix those and to make progress on those. We went from borrowing against future taxes to being able to pay off a $30 million bond note right now. So that's tremendous progress. Thank you for the work you've done. The citizens of this city we don't understand how much you've done for the city. I can't imagine anybody does, but just thank you for what you've done.
While we just went through a presentation where we're expressing our gratitude to Davenport for their proposal, we also know that they can't do anything on their own. They have to act on your recommendations, your requests. And as such, we recognize that all of these things came through your hard work. They're making it happen. But it was at your request, your recommendations, your hard work that makes this happen. And we were sad to see you leave as CFO when you left before. We were very glad to see that you returned. And now, as Assistant City Manager and CFO, you're making good things happen for the City of Bristol, and we are very grateful.
Yep.
Now would be a great time to point out that, just to thank the state funding.
Yes.
That absolutely is a large piece of us being able to pay this off. So thank you.
Yes, no, I actually had that in my notes. That's one of the top things here about that. And the state funding was so important to get that, and we're grateful, so grateful that we were able to receive that this year for sure. All right. With no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Farnham.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nate.
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda, item number 9, discussion and motion regarding funding for Believe in Bristol.
Council, we have had some discussions previously about funding for Believe in Bristol, and staff just needs a recommendation as to how we move forward. We did appropriate $70,000 for fiscal year 26 to Believe in Bristol, and I know there's been discussions about that funding amount, and we just need some direction on how we need to proceed.
So on the funding amount, last year, did we fund them $50,000 last year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And this year it was 70. That was the budget we voted on in the spring, which starts July 1st. So we're in that year now of
Yes.
70. Okay.
Yeah.
And for public information, when we budget an amount of money for an outside organization, we don't give them all the money all at once. We give it over each quarter, traditionally.
Most of the time, that's how it happens.
Yes.
It's usually quarterly.
And I will say, I know we receive a ton of budget requests each year, and I know that many, we can't give the full amount. We reduce it down to what we can handle in our budget, and just looking at some things that we want to do also as a city, still investing in our downtown and our community, but looking at what we want to do as far as activities and things. Are we looking, and just for an open discussion, around still funding them, but the same amount we funded them last year? And that was $50,000. All right, well, any further discussion on that?
Well, everybody's afraid to talk. I know we had some questions and complications last year that complicated our funding for Believe in Bristol. I think ultimately we gave them $50,000 and it worked out pretty well for them. I believe $70,000 was the full request, correct, for this year? Those are just facts I wanted to throw out to see if I get anybody else start talking.
Yeah. I will say, we've had some requests from others, such as Explore Bristol, who does a fantastic work for us, that we were not able to give them their full amount as well that they asked for, and funded them, I believe, the same thing we did last year.
I think that was actually, I think I'd made a budget request before we did this budget that we should give them an additional 50 so we could have 2 seats.
Right.
Or at least,
You are
a
correct.
non-voting seat additionally, yeah.
Yes, yep.
I think one line of thinking that I have, and this might not be the popular, I really don't know what everyone else thinks individually, but I guess there's this part of me that thinks if we did vote during the budget time in the spring to fund them a certain amount, and now we're in that fiscal year, if there would be any changes, I don't know, maybe it should happen during the next budget time. I don't really know if would it be right to make any changes now that we're already in that year, where we've already voted and approved that budget already? Just a thought.
Yeah. I can see that because they have had to establish their budget based on what we had approved, and they probably established their budget at the same time as we do. I'm on the Library Finance Committee, and I know that they're in that situation where they ask us, they ask the city staff what their anticipated budget numbers are so that they can work on their budget. I know that if we were to go back to, just using that as an example, the library, and say that we're going to reduce your budget by a certain amount, they would have a very hard time making that adjustment. They could during their budget process, but afterwards it gets really difficult. I would then ask, because I like suggestions together with issues, just as something to throw out there, perhaps we at least leave the approved amount for the current quarter, and then we adjust for the rest of the year.
I would like to point out that we did just do a supplemental appropriation for $30 million that was not in the original budget, so we have been known to do that, at least in the last 20 minutes. So just a little sarcasm there, but true. So I do think we do have room to have this discussion at this moment. I do think that 50,000 served them well last year. They did a fantastic job with that, did some great work, and I do think there's a lot of potential things downtown, other things that might be happening. I know we've got the Virginia 250 celebration next year. We have several big celebrations happening, so I think it's worth having a little ability to do something moving forward.
But Mr. Vice Mayor, 20 minutes ago was in the past. I'm sorry. Another thing I will point out about Believe in Bristol, I know that they, just yesterday, I think we all probably got the email, they're hiring another position for associate director, which would, I know it skews the argument, but it is there's only 2 employees. It takes it's a 33% increase in employees if you want to look at it that way. But they are hiring an assistant director, which I'm unclear on the reasoning for that, I guess. But we do have a lot of downtown stuff, as the vice mayor mentioned, and the 250th anniversary of the United States is coming up next year, as he said, and that's a party you only have once every 50 years. And It's going to be big, I hope, for us. And, we have a lot of downtown events and you'll see it, especially during the summer and into the fall, and not just, not just events that we sponsor, but sometimes events that other organizations sponsor. I know we're having like an Hispanic Heritage event that's the city's not sponsoring, but we're having it in Cumberland Park in September. That sometimes will require city to expend a little bit of money to cover the associated costs, with providing police support, providing logistics and stuff like that for these type of really good community events.
And I know there's grants out there for us to apply for the VA 250 that we can apply for, but you also have to have a match. So in thinking about what celebrations we're going to have for our downtown and moving forward, having that extra piece in there for that match or for events as we move forward for the 250 would be great. All right, any other discussion or do we have a motion regarding the funding on the amount?
I'll make the motion that we change the appropriation to what we had last year at 50,000 with the additional, the extra 20 going towards Virginia 250 or something along those lines. I don't want to box us in quite yet.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So the wording of the motion is specifically to take this $20,000 from Believe in Bristol and use it for, I know you mentioned Virginia 250, but specifically for a downtown events. Is that?
Yeah, still going to downtown.
So that would lock
yeah.
us into using the $20,000 to do something else downtown. Just
Something
so we're
else
clear,
downtown.
because Bristol's downtown, our downtown is part of two states, but we are one downtown. And, I think it's very important for the business owners and the business community to know, and, on both sides of the state line, that we support downtown. And we want the events downtown to be great. We want them to be exciting. We want them to be stuff that people come from our region, from all over our region to attend. So if we're cutting $20,000 from the downtown organization, we want everyone to understand that $20,000 is still going directly back into downtown.
Correct.
For events.
Yeah. No, I think that's an important comment to make. All right. Any further discussion? All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnham,
No.
Holmes,
Yes.
Osborne,
Yes.
Pollard,
Yes.
Nate.
Yes. All right, moving into item E, matters to be presented by members of the public, non-agenda items. We have one person signed up, so as I call your name, please come up, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes. Eric Bluestein.
Thank you for the time. I'll just say I live on the Tennessee side, so we'll leave it at that. But I'm here representing the Bristol Public Library Foundation. I just wanted to let everyone know that we have our golf tournament and community event on Saturday, September 6th at Steel Creek. Going to start at 9 a.m. We have a lot of great sponsors and prizes so far for the public to enjoy. You come out, be part of the golf tournament, and be part of Traveling Bears. Going to bring out their outdoor mini golf. We want to get families and everybody involved. If you participate on either side, you will get a raffle ticket for potential prize. We have prizes sponsors and prizes from BTES, Clear Creek Golf, Hutton Electric, the Golf Club of Bristol, ETSU, Paramount Theater, J. Frank Restaurant, Virginia Tech, King University, the birthplace of country music, including Rhythm and Roots weekend passes. Starbucks is providing coffee to our golfers. Blackbird's providing donuts for our golfers. We'll have lunch as well. We've invited nonprofits for free to come out. Let them present the services and programs they offer to the combined community of Virginia and Tennessee. We've got some food trucks coming out, provide food for everybody. You don't need to be a team. We have single golfers coming out. We want it to be a fun event for everybody. We've reduced the price for students to $25 to play in the tournament. It's a 9-hole tournament. We actually have some Virginia High students who have signed up or are signing up, which is great. And as I challenge the Tennessee Council, I will challenge the Virginia Council. We'd like it to be a great camaraderie event since the library supports both states, the city in both states. Would love to have the different departments challenge each other. We already have a challenge. Councilmember Pollard will be challenging Councilmember Firebrand on the Tennessee side in the mini golf. So we appreciate that and looking forward to that going on. And like I said, it's all about having fun, support the library, and really just come out and have fun with the community. We hope to have a lot of families out there, and we've got some great prizes, like I said, for golfing as well as just participating. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those, but we hope to see everybody there.
Thank you very much. And could you tell us the date one more time?
Yep, Saturday, September 6th at 9 a.m.
All right.
Yeah, we're doing it on a Saturday so we can have the teens there and doesn't interfere with school, and we will try to get everybody out there before the games start. I'm sure there's a lot of college football fans, so we'll try to make that happen.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you sharing the news with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is closed session. Pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3, discussion or consideration of the acquisition or of real property for a public purpose or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiation strategy of the public body. Pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A7, consultant with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to the actual and probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in an open public meeting would adversely affect the negotiation or litigating posture of the public body, U.S. Magus. And number 3, pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, and resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body personnel. So looking for council motion and second.
I move that we go into closed session for the reasons stated.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. All right, by roll call vote, council members certify that only business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements as specified in the motion to convene an executive session were discussed. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we allow the city manager to enter into negotiations to purchase property for public use with several property owners.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Did you get that motion, Megan? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is the approval of minutes from the August 12, 2025 City Council meeting and a Housing Authority Board reappointment. And I was looking at for her name.
Jennifer Taylor.
Jennifer Taylor.
Strictly speaking, isn't that the Beyond Housing Board?
Beyond Housing Board? Okay, yes. All right, looking for a motion and second.
I move the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes. Now we'll move into looking for a motion and second for adjournment.
I move that we stand adjourned.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Nave.
Yes, we are adjourned.